take great delight when I can reuse an item that someone no longer needs, such as clothing and furniture. And I always try to recycle my unwanted items for others to use.
And I think the most important thing that for this to happen is that Christian thing of not taking more than you need. And that totally contradicts society, because society is build a bigger barn, it's get a bigger car, it's fill your cupboards with more stuff and buy more things. And I just think that in my faith journey, I've just seen the power of the minimalisation of your life. When we take more than we need, we have too much, it becomes noisy. And I think that stripping everything back makes you hear clearly. And it would be an amazing world if we only took what we need for that day. But because we're broken, because we're anxious, we take a little bit for tomorrow as well. And that comes from the place of lack of faith. And I don't think it's an impossible thing to happen. I really don't. I think it's closer in humanity than we think.
So I'm particularly drawn to the fact that wherever I am, whatever community I live in, I have a duty and a care towards that and the environment that I'm living in. So whether that's just picking up the litter, if I see something that needs doing, it's being proactive in doing that.
I could probably care for God's earth more. I think growing up in a Jamaican household, there's always been an indirect mindset to be focused on recycling. So for years since I grew up, my mum would keep the plastic bags and wrap them up and keep them in a paper tube. And we never waste food because we had to eat every drop on our plate. Being mindful that our actions impact the planet. I am becoming more increasingly mindful about my energy usage and driving and plastic, and trying to, in those small ways, seemingly small ways, kind of reduce my impact on the environment and try and care for my planet a bit better.
I think it's been a real challenge for us as a family, because I don't think that we have gone about our purchasing and our living in a particularly sustainable way in the past. But more recently, I think it's something that we've become aware of. So we will try to buy our clothes and our goods from ethically sourced places, or places that manufacture things in an ethical way or an environmentally friendly way. We used to waste so much in terms of food and other resources as a family, and I think we're just trying to be a bit more mindful of that as well now.
I try and do things that are sustainable, renewable. So gas and electricity we have are green, and my wife makes us have that, and I support her in that. In supporting green policies locally, sort of nationally and internationally. Things like renewable energy. I'm really up for that kind of stuff.
I feel like God has always put the right person in place for the right time and season that I am in my life. So I feel like particularly for me, that's where a big blessing and a big part of my life is kind of the support network that I've had. I feel called to build relationships with people, especially young people. So I've always had, as I said, a good role model or influences in my life. I feel like I'm called to be the same to the next generation. So that's a particular calling that I'm still working out and what that means for me.
I think that I'm amazed with how much I've been blessed, and I can get emotional talking about it. I am that person who is minimal and don't have a lot of skills, but through God, I do. Through God, I always just have enough, if that makes sense. I have enough for the task at hand, that we're in Christian ministry as a choice to serve. We feel it's what we was called to, we're committed to it as a family. And I don't think you have to be anything amazing to do this, to participate in this, other than open yourself up and say, use me.
So grateful for life, and realize that's a blessing from God. Blessed to be in the country that I'm born in, with the freedoms that I have. Having those freedoms and having those blessings, that's a calling in itself. So, recognizing that I have these blessings, and then being able to speak up for, reach out and help those who may not be blessed in the same way. The gifts that we have been given, the blessings we have been given, kind of lead us to help those who haven't have the same opportunities and blessings. Also the giftings, the skills, the talents that God has given us all naturally, given me naturally, kind of help to kind of shape that calling. The things that I'm passionate about and driven by and drawn towards are part of God's call.
The gift of Jesus and the gift of eternal life and a relationship with God is the best gift any of us could ever have. You know, I was really blessed by my set of grandparents that prayed every day for all their grandchildren that they would come and know Jesus as their Lord, and all 6 of their grandchildren are still Christians. We're all in our sort of 20s and 30s, and to actually still be doing that really is testimony to that, and that's a real blessing, I think. From my grandparents. Housing, food, health, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff is easy to take for granted, but actually I try and remind myself occasionally that having sort of an attitude of gratitude, as I like to think of it, is a great place to be, and just to remember the blessings that God has given upon me and upon my family. Other areas I've been called on, you know, to where I live now, to Birmingham, to my job.
So in my own life, if I look back, I can see how God's been faithful to me and my family, and feel that that's a real blessing, that, you know, He's held us in the palm of His hand, even in times of trouble when things aren't easy.
I feel blessed that I am a child of God, that He created me, He chose me, He did all of this because He loves me. Firstly, to be a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mother, a teacher, a community volunteer, a triathlete, and also to a new vocation in ministry. I look back on my life and I can see where God has been present, nurturing me, forming me for the next thing which He has called me to do. I truly feel blessed to have a faith which listens and responds to God's call, even when I might be anxious or unsure about a new calling. But I'm comforted that as a child of God, that He's there to lead me and to love me.